Hi everyone, welcome to Ariel Show channel. Today I'm very happy to invite my friend Boyan. He's got a really busy schedule, so thanks Boyan so much for joining us today. And Boyan is going to talk to us about his career advancement from back to how he picked his degree, college, all the way to all the career changes to leading up to today. So welcome Boyan.
Hello, everyone.
We start with, Boyan, why don't you do a self-introduction and which area do you live now and your job title and some maybe job responsibility currently?
I live in the San Francisco Bay Area, and I'm a software engineer. I've been doing software for 10 years, ever since I graduated from college. Um, and right now, my focus is on computer vision. So that's a pretty interesting, I think, field, which we can talk about more later.
Thank you. I do this a lot for my interviews. I ask my friends to talk about how did you come to today? So we revert back to when you were applying for college times, maybe your teenage years. We talk about what college did you choose and what did you have in mind when you applied for college and you pick your degree? How that thought process all worked?
Those were some very formative years for me because if you do well in high school, then you have a chance of going to a prestigious college, um, and then that would lead to perhaps good opportunities afterwards. But in high school, I think I uh, wasn't very, I think I was very lucky that my best 2 years were my sophomore year and junior year, and those kind of mattered the most for applying to colleges. Also, I thought I did pretty well in like math and physics. I think they made sense to me just logically.
Mm.
I don't think I wasn't like a straight A student, but I felt like if you do the homework and you maybe read beforehand, and then you generally did like pretty well understood. And I think like learnings from I think those like what they teach in high school, a lot of it is could be pretty relevant. So it's important to not just get the good grade, but to actually learn. Um, and I still sometimes, not every day, but occasionally I would still use like physics and calculus in my day-to-day job. So
So you, so when you're in college, I mean, sorry, when you are in high school, you already know the math and the physics, they just make sense to you. So you kind of lean towards that area to progress, right? When it comes time to choose your university, what were the university you applied to and what major did you all choose, or did you only choose one major?
yeah, that's a really good question. When I applied, because in California, when you apply for colleges, all of the University of California colleges, I think you just one application will apply to all of them. So
Oh, that's nice.
yeah, so if you just want to apply to more, you just pay more fees. Um,
Right.
so I think I pretty much applied to almost all of the UCs, and I got into I think all of them. So that's I guess pretty good. I also applied to a lot of the private schools, and I didn't get into any of them.
Okay.
So, but you know, I don't think it really matters. At the end of the day, I think good learnings can be had anywhere. And I thought about it, and if you have almost every state has a good like public university, like their anchor, their like research, uh, prestigious research university type. So they're all they're all going to be very, very strong in any number of fields. So that was so I felt like uh, if I would probably go to the highest ranked university I got into, and also if there was a choice between more expensive and more economical, I probably would just choose the more economic option. So I think that's how I got to where I ended up. So of the UCs, I think UC Berkeley is the highest ranked, and also probably a bit more prestigious. So I just took that option.
I see. Oh, I didn't know. I'm not so familiar with all the UCs. When I went to school in Texas, and in Texas, I heard of Berkeley, but I mean, a lot of me and my friends in high school, we were all thinking UCLA, but we didn't. Well, I didn't try because it's out of state tuition, so it wasn't an option for me. Yeah.
Right. It doesn't. If you grew up in Texas, it makes a lot of sense to go to a good university in Texas.
Yeah. So when you apply for college, you pick your major, and did you have to pick one or two choices?
I think that might have depended on the school. I think I picked engineering for all of them. Um, I think I picked electrical engineering, and it was I didn't know exactly what an engineer did. I didn't actually know um, what the curriculum was, and if you read like the course title, it didn't make any sense to me. But a lot of friends picked electrical engineering and computer science, so I thought, probably you weren't gonna be too far off if you just did the same thing. And I think in colleges, it is fairly easy to switch majors the first 2 years as long as you keep your grades up. So I felt like those are, in that case, if you, it was probably, I think not very critical to get the major right,
Mm.
but just make sure that you take a lot of classes in college and figure out what you like to do. With the benefit of hindsight, I can explain sort of the four major engineering disciplines are going to be electrical engineering, mechanical engineering, I think civil engineering, bioengineering, and some schools chemical engineering, if that's an option,
Mm.
and computer science. I guess I'll start off with the majors I'm most familiar with, which is one computer science. Computer science, if it's an engineering department, it'll probably be a fairly rigorous curriculum, and you can learn how a computer works, how to write, make, utilize a computing. So and perhaps also be like introduced to into the software profession. Electrical engineering is if you see like a piece of hardware with it's like a green board, and then there's things like resistors, transistors, uh, chips, capacitors. So that's traditionally what a electrical engineering curriculum would teach you, how to design them, how they work. But then now I think electrical engineering, um, the interest in electrical engineering is dropping in America. Um, so a lot of the electrical engineering curriculum is now becoming a general engineering, optimization, system engineering type role. And I think that was perhaps previously something that mechanical engineering was uh, stronger stronger in. Mechanical engineering is I have many friends who are mechanical engineers, so I'm not a mechanical engineer myself, but I've worked with them, and you have like the more mathematical portions, which are controls and optimization, which is now very similar to electrical engineering, controls and optimization. And then you have the more, I think, practical implementation of designing mechanical parts. So things that either move or create heat or are subject to mechanical forces.
Mm.
And I think a lot of that, unfortunately, in the San Francisco Bay Area, there is not as many jobs in those fields, um, and the higher paying ones, especially at the technology companies, sometimes a lot of them tend to be designing cases and fixtures for um, or consumer electronics.
Oh.
A lot of the aerospace, automotive, these applications, they tend to be in other parts of the nation.
Oh, I see. So you were keeping in mind that you want to stay in San Francisco Bay Area when you picked the major.
There was some consideration.
I see. Yeah, that's good. My school also had the same engineering offers, and I was debating between some of these as well. Especially civil engineer was really good in my school, but in the end, I don't know what to do when I get a degree with civil engineering, so I didn't go that route. Yeah,
Okay.
and I had friends who studied civil engineering for a couple of years, and then they decided to change to computer engineering, so they joined me. Yeah.
There's one misconception that a lot of high school students have, which is, what do mechanical engineers do? Do they, fix cars? Because, mechanics,
Yeah.
they have you have the word mechanic in mechanical engineering,
Mhm.
but there's nothing there could be nothing further from the truth. Mechanical engineers, for the most part, they sit in an office, they're in front of a computer. They may go to the lab occasionally,
Mhm.
or maybe a bit more frequently, and occasionally they go out into the field. But day to day, they are not underneath a car, and they are not working like fixing things.
Mhm. Yeah, that's a good point. So people need to really learn about what the job is going to be like before they go into the major. Unlike me, I didn't know what the job's like, and I just went with the major and slowly found out, and it was okay. Yeah.
Yeah, that's not easy either. Like, even though my parents were engineers, I still had no idea what an engineer did.
Mm,
Um,
yeah. Well, glad we
so-
have so much information on the internet now, so they can probably see like a day of a computer engineer, a day of a mechanical engineer. So maybe that's a good way to find out how it's like.
right, right.
When you were in college, did it turn out how you imagined to be for the computer engineering, so study computer engineering?
The electrical engineering classes I felt like were more intuitive. If you have a good physics knowledge, then they teach it to you step by step. That they're really, uh, there's not very many avenues for people to kind of get ahead because like large microelectronics labs don't exist,
Mm,
aren't publicly available a lot of times. So I felt like it was for me that seemed more structured and less likely to get, I think, and I felt like in most of the classes, I felt like I was mostly well prepared. I think for the software and computer science classes, I felt like that was pretty difficult because I didn't do that in high school.
mm,
Um, and so people go into university with different levels of experience. Some people have been programming since like high school or even middle school, and some people have never touched a Unix computer. That's like me. So I felt like it was very difficult and some very easy things, configurations that would take me maybe even waste a whole day would maybe be a few minutes work for someone else.
mm.
So, um, but it's good to learn these things, and if you don't learn them in high school, you'll learn them in college, or you'll learn them in your profession. But if you learn them, I felt like there's just so much variability. Computer science, like kind of in class for computer science. So I think just try not to get discouraged because everyone, even the people who look seem smart, at one point they didn't know what was going on and they had to struggle a lot.
That's kind of true. In my school, we had like rumors that our major had high dropout rates. So that make a lot of, at least the beginners, worried or pressured or scared. I don't know if it was the case in your school too.
Definitely the first year, you saw many faces that didn't come back for following classes.
Mm, yeah. Yeah, that's the same case in my school. And then later, further in the program, then lesser people drop out because you're almost there. So just hang on, you're gonna make it. Did you have internships in college?
I did. I had one internship, and that was a very good experience. My first time actually, my first time actually getting a salary.
What did you do?
I was in a enterprise software company,
Mhm.
so there were many teams, but I was in the application software team, and I made a security kind of configurator that customers would use. It was pretty interesting because I felt like, hey, I could take something that I made and then, a customer would have, it would make someone's life easier, and some IT personnel in a big company would, buy it and use it.
It's always very nice to work on something and you know where it ended up or what value it brought. What did you do and what was the responsibility and kind of describe it and how did you feel?
Yeah, that's a great question. A lot of people, if they have a good internship experience, they would go back to the internship company.
Hmm.
And I think if I tried, they would have asked me to return. But I felt like I wanted to do something with more, science and engineering.
Mm.
Enterprise software tends to make a lot of maybe money and maybe has very good uh, growth potential, like as a career. But I also wanted to do some of the more hardware, some of the more kind of science kind of projects too.
Hmm.
So I chose a company called Silver Spring Networks, and it was doing green tech, which was very popular 10 years ago.
Uh-huh.
And the company was doing wireless technology to uh, have a uh, wireless to bring like internet into your electric meter so that you could either get a bill instantaneously or like check your usage instantaneously. You could get a bill without having someone going to your house and looking at the electric meter to figure out how much power you used in that month.
Oh.
So there was a lot of good learnings, but also perhaps the tough learnings too. I thought I was being hired to do firmware engineering, and that's what I wanted to do. That
Uh-huh.
would be like writing C, low-level code on a hardware. But
Yeah.
then I got put into a um, test automation team, and it was good. Test automation. So I would configure a network of these devices, and I would, test features that other people wrote. I really wanted to be in a team that wrote the feature, but then instead I got put in a team to test the feature.
Oh.
Um, I mean, a job is a job, you get paid, and there are
Yes.
some learnings, but I felt like after about half or 1 year, I was already like the best person in the team. And I
Mm.
think if you're, 22, 23, and you're already the best, maybe there should be like more challenges in life uh, than this job would bring. So
Agree.
I knew pretty early on that this is probably not going to be like a long-term job, and I probably should have so then I started looking for a new job, maybe a year or a year and a half into the after a year and a half.